Hey everyone, this is George Couros, and welcome back to another episode of Mindset Monday. Hey everyone, it's George Couros. It is so good to be back here. It is actually Monday when I'm recording this. As you all know, I've shared this several times. I just record these on different days, and this happens to be a Monday, and it's actually season 3, episode 9. And what's weird is that I actually record episode 10 already. And so I know it's like I know this the season finale yet. So make sure you keep an eye out for the season finale of Mindset Monday. Yeah, so like I was a part of the reason I actually did that was to ensure that I get the season done. So I always want to do this in the HBO 10 episode season. It's kind of my goal. And I knew that actually getting the 10th episode done would leave like a hole in my schedule for the ninth episode. And I've been kind of having some trouble doing these. I don't know why. Like a little bit. Sometimes I don't know what to say. Sometimes I'm just I'm being honest. I'm stuttering. Obviously, I'm feeling a little out of routine. I'm trying to figure out my way in a new place. I wanted to be very authentic and real about that because I think a lot of times people see us embracing and taking advantage of new changes. I've been an advocate of this, but it doesn't mean the change is always easy, and sometimes we always struggle with it. So I'm just trying to kind of find my way out, and who knows what we'll do season 4. So a little bit of a cliffhanger there, even though we're not at the end of the season just yet. And I wanted to talk about uh this idea of like asking questions, and this episode is titled "Be Curious, Not Judgmental," and that was from a quote that was credited to Walt Whitman, and it was on an episode of Ted Lasso, and there's a really great story with it in the Ted Lasso episode. But I just really love that quote, the idea of be curious, not judgmental. And I find that a lot of the discourse that happens, especially in spaces where there's a lack of intimacy, where there's a lack of being able to see facial expressions, seeing responses to things. There's a lot of ability to be judgmental instead of just asking questions. And you kind of always got to know what's going on the other side, but just kind of being thoughtful. And like sometimes it's not just the person that we are being judgmental to, but sometimes when we don't ask questions, it can actually hurt ourselves as well. I'll get to that in a second. But I'm reading this book called Persuasion, and what I've been doing is I've been really trying to read physical books. I typically read books on Kindle, and the reason that I do that is because it's really easy to highlight and kind of go back. But I just kind of want to get off my devices a little bit more. And what I've been doing is maybe this is me not really, it's maybe a little bit me getting off devices, but if I see a quote that I really like, I would just highlight in Kindle and it would show up my computer. But what I've been doing is I've actually been taking pictures of the quotes and then just throwing them in notes and then going back. And I'm looking at one of them right now. And it was actually a quote from it was like the Pink Panther. And it was like just a little dialogue I thought was really funny, and it kind of ties into this. So Inspector Clouseau walks up to a hotel to the front desk, and the person at the front desk sees Inspector Clouseau with the dog, says, "Hey, does your dog bite?" Or sorry, Inspector Clouseau sees the dog at the whole story, and he says, "Does your dog bite?" And the hotel clerk says, "No." And then Inspector Clouseau goes to pet the dog. He says, "Nice doggy." And then the dog bites Inspector Clouseau. And then he says, I thought you said your dog didn't bite." And the hotel clerk says, "Well, that's not my dog," which is I thought it was kind of funny, right? And it's when we actually, the reason I bring up this story is, well, first of all, it's funny. Obviously, the way I told it is way funnier than the movie, right? Not even close. It screwed it up big time, but whatever. But sometimes when we actually lack information, that can hurt us. And that's why what I thought about when I was thinking about this episode is kind of like just that. This is the reason I kind of capturing these quotes and these stories that resonate is because I feel sometimes they actually click on a story that actually clicks in my head. And or it triggers something to make me kind of dig deeper into. I think sometimes finding information, it's not just absorbing the information, but it's connecting it to our own experiences is where you get real value of it, which is why I wanted to share this. And so I remember actually the story I wanted to share today is I remember, obviously we just moved, we were doing a realty, and I remember actually talking to my realtor, and I was texting, and I was texting, and they had said something, um, basically that, "Hey, the house is when your house is sold, and your commission, or and just here's the commission, blah blah blah." And I looked at it, I was like, "That doesn't seem right. Like, the commission seems higher than what was agreed upon. Like, did I not read the contract? Like, what did I miss here?" And so I actually like read. So I went through, looked it up, blah blah blah, and then I realized that the realtor um, had actually basically taken more commission than what I thought. And I texted and I said, "Can you like contact me like right away?" And I heard nothing. And I was so upset. I was like, "Oh my God, I got totally ripped off. Like I lost a lot of money because of this." And I remember talking to my brother, and he said, sometimes we get college classes that we pay for. The trick is to um, not take the class more than once. And I was like, "That's really good. That's a really good way of thinking." And I know that maybe doesn't have anything to do with the story, but I thought it was just really good advice. I thought it was really interesting. Is that sometimes our mistakes cost us in many ways. Sometimes it can be financially, sometimes it can be time. But do we want to make that same mistake twice and actually go through that same cost? Anyways, I was very upset, couldn't function, and then I actually eventually talked to the realtor, and she said, "Oh, sorry, I typed something wrong." So I like spent hours of my afternoon being so upset because I made a judgment. I had made something without getting further information. And when we don't ask the questions, when we don't actually dig in deeper, it leaves us upset. It's not just that we're necessarily judging the other person, but it actually affects us too. Where sometimes we just got to actually step back, really kind of think, like, what are we hoping from the situation, and what do we actually know, and do we ask questions? And I have learned over the years that really, and obviously not all the time, because that wasn't, to be honest with you, that wasn't that long ago. Trying to get better at this, and this is one of the reasons I do these mindset Mondays, is not only like hopefully I can help other people, but really kind of talk through some of my own stuff to make me better. That sometimes when I'm frustrated, or I see something that kind of puts me in a bad mood, or rubs me the wrong way, do I just make the judgment immediately, or do I step back and do I ask the questions? Do I ask questions to further understand the experience of others, and really kind of understand something? And I think this is actually something that can serve us in many different ways. And I actually remember hearing something or reading something, and I think it's a really powerful lesson for educators, not only for how we interact with one another, but also how we can kind of help our students. And there was a quote, and again, I always hate this because I like just kind of read stuff, and I zip through TikToks and pictures on Instagram, whatever, and then like later it hits me, and then I can't find it because I'm telling you this because I don't want credit for it. And it basically said that when we were kids, and they're kind of talking about my generation, we were brought up to not talk politics and religion with strangers, and that's kind of been my approach, and it's kind of just been how I've been with this. And and that's really kind of with social media too, right? And what it actually said is that what we should have been taught is, how do we talk politics and religion with strangers in a civil manner? That really hit me. And do we actually have conversations with our students? Do we actually have those conversations with our colleagues? That sometimes when we disagree on things, whether it be in a political realm, whatever, education, stuff like that, do we go from a place where we ask questions to further understand? And this is like Covey, one of my favorite books ever, and is The Seven Habits. And seek first to understand to be understood, I think is literally the first habit. Is do we actually go to clarify and to understand? Because a lot of times um, we're a lot closer to some of our ideas, some of our thoughts than we perceive, but we don't know that because we make assumptions before asking questions. And if you go back to that question or that quote from Whitman that was shared in Ted Lasso, be curious, not judgmental. I think that is something that is a really great life lesson, and not only is beneficial to the other party, but as I said in my own story, can be beneficial to us because a lot of times we waste our own feelings and emotions in negative ways because we make assumptions before really understanding the viewpoints of others. And I think that can be obviously when we take better care of ourselves, we can take better care of others, which totally is why this is an episode of Mindset Monday. So hopefully somewhere in there made you think. Um, hopefully I didn't ruin that Pink Panther story too bad, but whatever it did, I hope you have a great week ahead. I appreciate all you do. Thanks for listening. And yeah, I hope you have a wonderful day and week ahead. Take care. Thanks.